Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine.
Welcome, folks, to another episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. I opened that wrong. This is the Saying No to PPO's podcast series. My name is Ben Tuine, and I am your solo host today. Well, actually, I have a co-host today. I have Melissa Dunham. You've heard from her before. Melissa's with our program. Jordan's not here today. He's in the sunny and beautiful state of Hawaii at the ADA, but we have Melissa with us today. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be back. Thanks.
Yeah, it's always great having you back. So just for our listeners' background, so Melissa has tag teamed with us on a number of events this year. The reason being is because I am a firm believer in new education, new topics, new areas of dentistry as it pertains to insurance administration that haven't been really tapped into before. So Melissa's topic in insurance administration and reducing time spent on insurance administration, in my opinion, is going to become one of the more important topics in dentistry over the next several years. So Melissa and I attended the Pacific Northwest Dental Conference in June. Melissa spoke there for a little bit, and she got a standing ovation from the crowd there. That was a big room, wasn't it? It was like a good...
It was a big room, and the ears were on. These people were incredibly intelligent office managers and doctors, and boy, they really had some wonderful questions.
Yeah, it was an awesome group, and hopefully some of them are listening today. They were very gracious and kind. We had 6 hours at that meeting, and it was phenomenal. My feet were hurting right after. And then just most recently, Melissa came to Vegas to attend one of the meetings that Jordan and I were sponsoring, and a meeting that Jordan and I had an opportunity to speak at. And that was a meeting that we got kicked out of. I guess I brought Melissa without telling the host. But, I've done this even with Jordan to help Jordan build his name, and my friend Chris Torres, is I've taken them to meetings and had them be a part of my curriculum that I'm responsible for. And it was just a sad shame that the time that we had, in this case, the very rare situation where we actually pay to play and not get paid to deliver education, our time was cut short, and so we left. We just felt really disrespected at that meeting, and unfortunately Melissa wasn't even able to cover an ounce of her awesome and amazing topic. So Melissa's going to be at our meeting in Salt Lake City in 2 weeks, November 3rd, I believe. It's a Friday. And I'm going to give her more than an hour to cover her topic, and I have a bunch of personal clients that are going to be there, and they're all going to benefit because what she has to cover is just amazing when it comes to insurance administration. And then a sneak peek here in 2 weeks. You all that are subscribers of the Dental Economics magazine are going to see an article that Melissa and I put together, and it's titled, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it this early, but you'll see it. And we'll give you a sneak peek of what we talk about in that article, but it is a hit article that Dental Economics is going to be featuring in their November 2018 edition. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about what's in that article, but what I want to talk about first is Melissa is an expert when it comes to insurance administration, and one of the areas that she talks about are these things called reference guides. Melissa, can you explain to the listeners what a reference guide is?
Yes, a dental reference guide is sometimes called by another name, but the gist of it is that this is a pamphlet, a booklet, that has everything to do with how the doctors and insurance companies should do business together. Okay, so in your contracts, it will tell you mostly that you need to abide by the most recent version of the published dental reference guide. If you are not pulling those every year and reviewing them January 1 or before credentialing, before negotiating contracts, you could be missing out on a lot of stuff. So that's sometimes your little bit of a Bible. It also will tell you what they're doing new for their contracts that year, what codes they're going to be allowing, what they're not going to allow. They're going to allow an alternate for something. It's all in those reference guides. And most offices, what I'm finding, do not pull them at all, or at least every year. I think you should pull it every year and keep the past versions.
That's been my mistake. Is I've read every single PPO contract, and I continue to read them every single year, and they do mention reference guides in there. But I've never really thought, I've never really realized the importance of pulling that reference guide until I met you. So when you obtain one, do you just simply call provider relations to request one? And what's the policy on them turning around? Do they email that to you? Do they send it via mail, or what's your experience?
Most companies have it on their website at all times for you to be able to read. The other thing is they'll have state-specific rules of how they're going to acknowledge certain rules. They'll have coordination of benefits, which is really important. Yeah. And I'll get into that in just a second. And there's so much there that offices should need. What I do is I either scan it into what I call a DRG folder for the insurance company and I keep every published version.
Yeah.
If they go and amend it, sometimes I just check. There's a company that I've been checking on because they can't seem to get their act together, and we're not even providers for them, but a lot of my clients are, a lot of our friends are, so I've kind of been checking on them. They've changed it 8 times.
Oh, jeez.
To their favor. And so
In a year, or just over the last several years?
Oh, no. Since May 1 of 2017.
Wow.
If it doesn't help you out there. And it's been to their favor, and now it's very nondescript. Kind of funny how that happens.
Right.
I'm like, well, I kind of know what happens because I have the past versions. And so they try to argue with me. I'm like, no, I have the old version. This is where it was. So you owe. Oh, it's sickening.
So are those reference guides, do they carry over state by state? So like, for instance, the MetLife reference guide, is it state specific, or is there one reference guide for the entire country? Okay.
Most of them have one reference guide for all their PPO contracts. They'll have a PPO reference guide if it's an HMO or blah, blah. And then within that, they'll have some descriptors. But usually, if there's something state specific, it either A, be in the reference guide, or B, it'd be a separate document on the website for, like, I know Virginia has some special documents, Arizona has some special documents, California out the yin-yang special documents. So if you can pay attention to those, it will save you a lot of frustration and time spent on insurance because you already know. You're not getting blindsided, at the back end. So January is busy for me. I usually go through as many as I can. In January, I have a date. By January 15th, I have gotten through all of them, made any changes. For those starting, you might want to give yourself a month, because you got other things to do. But it's important that you look at that because it will save you so much time. I don't know how many times I get an email or I see in a forum that someone's throwing their hands up about simple things like downgrades or fighting over. I'm like, it's going to be in their reference guide or in their plan booklet. Just you're not going to be able to get around it. That's what it is. It always gets me that I think that dental staff is the most dedicated out there, and they really work hard for their patients. But sometimes they beat their head against the wall Sorry, can't talk clearly. Because they don't know that it's there. It's on the website. It doesn't come in the mail, and it's not, and they're busy during the day. But if they knew it was in that reference guide, they spend a lot less time because there you go. Things that are also in there are new contact numbers, emails to the provider relations department, which is my favorite. Emails to appeals, even better. On United Concordia, you can appeal a claim online.
Wow.
There's an appeal that you fill it out right there, which is, I think, perks.
So it's like a cheat sheet. It's like a cheat sheet of information regarding coverage and where to appeals and who to contact at each insurance carrier, which are a few things that many struggle with. So so practical examples, like there's this whole debate about that new code 4346. Well, it's been new for almost a couple of years now. So the reference guides will tell you if that's even covered, right? Do they explain at what percent a procedure is covered?
And they'll tell you that most of them will cover a 4346, most plans now, but they will allow it at the same frequency of the cleaning. So if Mr. Mouth comes in January and he's, got a little gingivitis and you want to do a 4346 and do his films and his x-ray, cool. And then he comes back in 6 months and has a 1110. Yeah. Great. He can also have another 4346 that year.
Right. Yeah.
They might downgrade it, but you don't have to adjust off to the downgrade. You downgrade to your fee for your 42, 46, the allowed amount.
Right. So what do you think is more important, the reference guides or a coding book? Or are they equally important?
I think more knowledge is always the best. So I prefer, I always prefer that I have my Practice Booster by Charles Blair, because I love it, because it stores on my desktop and I just type in a code or a phrase and I have it there, and I have a huge coding forum there too. And I also get the Administration with Confidence. It's helpful. Coding book, always need one, and you need one for the current year that you're on.
Yeah, absolutely.
and the DRG. They're partners, because how can you work without them? You could be coding something. That's the other thing is these new codes that come out. The CDT didn't throw any hugely amazing ones. I think they were bored this year. I've been after them for years to give me what I want. They still won't. I think they're tired of hearing from me.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because insurance companies have a small hand in it still, so they don't want to put those codes in.
Right.
Well, anyways, so what was the question again? I got on a tangent.
Coding books or reference guides. Which ones are more important? And you said that more knowledge is better, which I agree. And so when doctors and team members are looking to prioritize their time, what you're recommending is that both is important. A little bit of investment in education and knowledge will save you in the long run of just the whole guessing game that goes on in dentistry in terms of what's covered, what should be downgraded, and all the all the other stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
You're billing out a $1,200 crown, and you're adjusting off in some offices for $100, and now your staff member who's paid $15 to $20 an hour, who I don't know, plus benefits, plus employee taxes, sit there and fight over this claim where you just lost a bunch of money, and that's not a crown. So you just yes, they need a coding book, reference guide book. Put them into work, update your systems, make it January 1st. You've got all your new codes in there, how these plans are going to, and then go from there. Smooth sailing.
So there's, as you know, there are tons and tons of insurance companies out there. Where do you recommend doctors start with? Maybe their top 2, top 3 insurance carriers in terms of reference guide studies, and then work from there?
Yes, I think that would probably make most sense. Just go ahead and pull the ones that you most do or more you're having problems with. Put them in first. Just give yourself a timeline that you're going to have them all done by such and such date.
Right. Yeah.
Every year.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty cool. So the message, folks, is these reference guides they're available to you. They're part of your agreement with the insurance carrier. Unfortunately, that's not something that's disclosed up front to the dental practices. But it is a gold mine of information that kind of eliminates the guesswork on what codes are covered, what procedures are covered, the downgrades and so forth that many practices ask about. So that's available. Contact provider relations. Check those websites. And the DRG, the acronym that Melissa's using, DRG, that refers to the reference guide. I'm assuming D stands for dental, right?
Yes.
Dental reference guide. Okay.
Fun tip about that is that here's a fun tip. Sorry to interrupt, but this also keeps them in line. So they have to go by, if you're responsible, then they are equally responsible. So if they publish something in that DRG and you've signed your contract to honor that, and they haven't done their part, okay, now you have a plan of recourse. So that's why it's really important to always keep that. Like, for instance, there's this one great big company out there, and they are not paying the composites at the proper rate, and they're having a doctor write off all the way to amalgam. Well, that's not what it says in the reference guide. What they did was they published it in the patient's book like that, and they're trying to hold doctors to that. If the doctors would at least pay attention to that and throw their hands up, they would probably get about $8,000 to $10,000 back a month in incorrect adjustments that they have had to do.
Kind of sounds like United Concordia to me.
Kind of sounds like.
You don't have to say it, but United Concordia does that all the time, where they'll say on the EOB, they'll say that the doctors cannot balance bill the amount that was downgraded or the amount that was denied. And then I get a separate letter from United Concordia that says that, actually the doctors can. And so they contradict themselves on their policy side and what they state on the EOBs. At some point, these insurance carriers are going to get a huge class action lawsuit. And this is something that's a point of frustration for me, is that as I go and speak to the dental associations and the leaders, a lot of them aren't even aware of the double standard that goes on by the insurance carriers. Fortunately, we have a strong association here locally, and we're gonna get on top of some of this to help push up some of these class actions together to see if we can get some traction.
But that's how you would catch that, is it would be in your reference guide. So if
Right.
they're not coming back and paying according to what's in your reference guide and you have a copy of it, you could send this in for a formal appeal, and they would have to pay you
Right. Yeah.
how they said, or it's fraudulent contracting, and then you can alert the fraud department. So, yeah.
I wonder if that's something.
DRGs are important.
I wonder if that's something. Have you tried to talk to the insurance commissioner about that?
For this specific contract, the insurance commissioner does not have any hold over them.
Oh,
it's like,
it's a
you
federal
tell them that
contract.
way, y'all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. If it's state specific, the insurance commissioners can govern it. But if it's a federal or ERISA plan, self-funded plan, then the insurance commissioners have no oversight. I'm going to look into more into that, because I think more advocacy and more help on the regulator side of things is key in getting these issues resolved. It's just stupid for people to spend money to fight and advocate on behalf of these things when there are government agencies that are designed to do that for us. So the DRGs, dental reference guys. One other thing that you mentioned, Melissa, in the meeting that we were so rudely interrupted at, in Vegas earlier this month, is you talked about Invisalign and something about them or the fees or Invisalign not being included in the reference guides as it pertains to coverage. And I didn't get a chance to hear all of it because people were waving. Saying that we didn't have, we're out of time. Can you speak to a little bit about what you talked about at the conference?
Yes. So, it's the money clicker. So basically, real quick, there's no adjustment for Invisalign or clear orthodontics or any type of clear ortho in all of the DRGs that I've ever read. It simply states that it's non-covered. They will allow for the regular ortho, so it's not like your patients aren't going to get a payment. But the patient will owe to your fee in instances of Invisalign or OrthoClear or that sort of thing. So there's no adjustment. And what I find is a lot of doctors are writing off between $1,000 to $2,000 a case. If you're starting 5 new cases a month, that could be $10,000 a month in adjustments you did not have to adjust off to. It's in your reference guide. If you were to see that, then you, of course, would have been doing a lot smarter business. The other thing is in your reference guides is most of them will allow for the doctor to give an adjustment on covered services when it is in the instance of financial hardship, which is also another interesting thing. So if something happened to your patient is angry, you give a financial hardship adjustment. It can't be a standard proceeding, but if once in a while, most contracts and most dental reference guides allow it.
That's really interesting. So going back to the Invisalign no adjustment, so the code that everybody uses as the quote unquote Invisalign code, isn't in fact an Invisalign code. I mean, this goes back to when people were referring to the Arrestin code as an Arrestin code, when in fact it's not an Arrestin code. It's a code for oh gosh, I can't remember the exact terminology, but it's not specifically for the Arrestin product. You can have
a chemical agent.
Right. You can use multiple different antimicrobials for that particular code. And so Invisalign is the same thing. It's not truly an Invisalign code. The reference guides that you read indicate that Invisalign is a non-covered, but you can still submit a code to get some insurance coverage, right? And then just balance bill up to your standard office fees or the Invisalign.
What I do is I create a modifier code, which I think we talked about doing another podcast simply on the effect of placing modifier codes in your systems and using them to help lower your AR. But what I have in my system is I have a code 8090.2 modifier code, and it says invisible ortho complete case or Invisalign ortho, whatever you would make it. And what happens usually is insurance companies will get that and they'll see it described as Invisalign or whatever, and they will not ask for an adjustment. They've gotten pretty good at that. But if they do come back with it as an adjustment, sometimes it's just a matter of, like, in their systems, they can't show us not having an adjustment. But it's not that they're being facetious. I want to be on the edge of on the good side. But that's sort of what that means. So you know the rule. That's your power right there. It's your DRG. You already know what your liability is, so then you don't give an adjustment. If the insurance company has a problem with it, they'll come back and ask you later, and then you can just show them your DRG.
Right.
You don't have to call anybody. You don't have to mess with anything. If they get a problem with it, they'll call you because your patient said something to them, or maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But you know what you can do, and you just do it.
Right.
So make a little modifier code for that. Make it Invisalign. It kind of makes it to streamline the process. You don't even have to write any notes on your claim forms or anything like that.
So this is the part where I really like what you talk about, Melissa, is because when you say that there's no adjustment for Invisalign, people's eyebrows raise on the dental side. They're like, no way, I don't believe that's not true. I don't believe that.
I can pull
you have the
5
evidence
right now.
Yeah, you have the evidence, which is key. This is why, folks, I believe this topic is so important. Why what Melissa talks about is going to dominate the education on insurance in the industry very soon, is simply because the things that we think we can't do, we actually can. You know, it's so funny. You know, my opening slide on my presentations, I got this from Dr. Mark Cooper, where he said, oh gosh, I can't remember what he said. It's on my first slide.
Where's your slides?
Yeah, it's something to the extent of the impossible is an opinion. You know, if something's impossible, like this whole thing about the Invisalign not being adjusted, and you don't believe that, number one, you check the reference guides for you to see the proof of that, which I believe Melissa, because she's been implementing this policy for a number of years, and she has had battles with insurance carriers on this. So I believe what she's saying. But for those of you that are saying, that can't be true, I guarantee you, check the reference guides, and you'll see exactly what Melissa's saying. But you know, impossible is an opinion. If that's your mentality, that no, this is impossible, just know that, you know, you have a right to your opinion. But we're going to give you controversial topics that are not going to lead you astray. So let's move on, Melissa, to a sneak peek of the article that's coming out here in November 2018. And for those of you that are listening to this episode after November, you'll see it. Go to dentaleconomics.com, or if you have the magazine, you'll see the title of that article. And part of that title is how to reduce time spent on insurance administration. And one of the key highlights that we talk about in that article are the power of the pre-authorizations, something that many offices refuse to believe that solution that actually works. And one of the key items of feedback that I get from many doctors is that it just takes too long to get a pre-authorization back. You submit one, they come back in 3 to 4 weeks. Well, before I let Melissa talk about the reason why that's not true, I'm not a marketing firm, but you know, I used to run the marketing division for a large dental corporation, which was tied into the insurance department, which I also ran. Anytime we implemented a new marketing concept, we were a big belief that the first month of results is not going to give you a full picture on whether that marketing technique is going to work or not. So when we took a look at any marketing concept, we were looking at it from a 6 to 12 month perspective and analyzing it, because what we found is that the first 2 months, we really didn't see the results that we were hoping for. But by month 3, 4, 5, 6, and thereafter, we saw huge and amazing results. So here's why I bring this up. With marketing, if you don't stick and commit to a certain strategy or technique, and you're expecting immediate results, and you quit because you don't see those immediate results, you've just wasted money on that marketing concept. You have to be patient to let these things unfold and build momentum. And the same is true with these, with what Melissa's talking about, particularly with these pre-authorizations, is that she's probably seen those come out 3 weeks, come back in 3 weeks when she first started. But how long does it take for you to get a pre-auth back right now, Melissa?
Oh, it's really fast. Maybe, like 3 to 5 days, maybe even. I mean, some of them come back really like 3 days. It's amazing sometimes. I'm like, They just got it. How am I getting this back in?
Yeah.
So in 5 days now. I mean, going back when I first started, it took a little while. But more than that, I think the reason it took me so long, we had so many people with dual insurance, and I thought you had to wait for the primary to come back. And then I had a eureka moment. And here's a tip. You don't have to do that. You can submit them all in the same day, even if they had like quad coverage. you could send them all on the same day because none of them coordinate benefits on a pre-auth. So I was sometimes I get the primary and the secondary back on the same day or within a day or two of each other. Patients love it. We just called a gal today, and we can go ahead and do our own coordination of benefits, give them a real total. We just called and scheduled about 8 units of Crown and Bridge this morning.
Wow.
Yeah, and it booked.
Yeah. That's awesome. So why are the pre-authorizations so important? In your policy, and we mentioned this in the article, that you pre-authorize everything except for cleanings, perio maintenance, the small stuff. Why do you have this policy that you implement it for every other treatment? You do a pre-auth.
Because I got really tired of being responsible for this code. The patients wanted me to be responsible for giving them this money, and I never like to put someone out, and I would never put my hand in someone else's pocket. And I wanted to get rid of that crystal ball effect. I wanted them to have more responsibility for their plan, understand where we're coming from, or understand their benefits, so that maybe they could choose a better plan next year, or realize that what they were paying for wasn't working out. So maybe it was just better to not have that dental plan that was costing them so much money per month. So I started pre-authorizing 6-7 years ago maybe, and it's really worked out. And then of course we use the modifier codes within our system, and I have to tell you, my AR shot down so low after we started implementing the system. The reason that going back to that, what you said about giving that momentum, that it build it up and do a 6-month review, our AR became so tight in a good way. In other words, it was what we wanted it to happen. We needed it to come down. Our statements fell in half in 6 months. So we were a practice that was putting out between 200 and 250 statements a month. Mm-hmm. And it cut down in half in 6 months. That was what I first noticed. And then I ran our AR totals, and it was much less. All of a sudden, I realized we weren't having those ugly conversations with patients anymore. Right. Those conversations just went away. And I was like, okay, we're going to stick with this for another 6 months. So we did another 6 months. Now it's a way of our business, and I would never do it any other way. And that's why when I go to other practices, I'm like, I really won't even work with them unless they're going to tell me they're going to pre-auth.
Yeah, that's key and important. I mean, you just have to stick to it with anything. But, part of this article that Melissa and I put together, it talks about the consistency. When you're consistent in your strategy and you stick to it, what you start to find and realize is that the insurance carriers will treat you differently. They'll start to respond quicker. They'll start to realize that you're not a practice to be messed around with. So here are a few bullet points that Melissa put out when she started pre-authorizations. 95% of her claims are paid the first time they are submitted. Now, this is huge because I've actually taken a look at a bunch of our clients and asked them what percentage of your claims are paid the first time they're submitted. You'd be surprised. Their initial guess would be anywhere between 80 to 90, but in reality, it's anywhere between 50 to 65% of those claims that are paid the first time they're submitted. Oftentimes, the claims are submitted and they're not even recognized as received by the insurance carrier through the clearinghouse, and then the insurance carrier has a large chunk of claims that they ask for additional information that you already submitted. You submitted a narrative that explains everything, but they'll come back and ask you for additional information. We all see this day in and day out. But when you have a pre-authorization, it basically tells you what's covered, what's downgrade. Is that right, Melissa? Everything that needs to be submitted in terms of the claim. If the claim is clean, then you'll have, with the pre-authorization, you'll have those claims covered and paid for. And in some states, like California, where there are laws that say that if you obtain a pre-authorization is a pre-approval of that treatment, which means it cannot be denied by insurance. So this was an impressive point that Melissa put together. 95% of her claims are paid the first time around. The second one is denied claims are often reversed with proof of pre-authorization. Can you speak to that one a little bit, Melissa?
Oh, yeah. Let's just say, obviously, if the treatment was the same and the plan is the same, then if they deny it, all I do is send them an electronic attachment. I don't even call them. I just send them another electronic attachment, reference their claim number, and saying, you already pre-authorized this on pre-authorization number, blah, blah, blah. Takes me 5 seconds, and I get a check in the mail. Now, if they come back and deny it for some fruity reason, then I can go to bat for my patient, and sometimes I do if I feel like we really are going to get somewhere with the insurance company. But you can literally send them a copy of their pre-auth. And then with a lot of that, now you have foothold, and we can go back to the insurance commissioner. You can say, hey, this company is really pulling it. You've got to fix this. You will normally win. I don't even have that many problems now because once it's pre-authorized, they have done all the footwork, and I don't really have too many now. I've had a few in the past do that to me, but not much anymore. It's pretty much smooth sailing. Even when, let's say, I sent in a claim. This happened to me about 6 months ago. I sent in a claim for two crowns. They came back and denied it. And I'm like, hold on a second. I had a pre-authorization from 2 years ago. Same company, same treatment. And they're like, oh, well, it's termed. I said, well, the treatment didn't change. As a matter of fact, it got a little worse. So if you're going to pay it back then, and by the way, I gave a copy of this pre-auth to your patient. They paid it.
Because if you did a pre-authorization again, they would come back with the exact same statement or exact same pre-authorization, just a different number, right?
Yeah, because that's what in our office, I don't redo, and I suggest this to everyone, is the pre-authorizations are for our knowledge. And if they serve the patient, that's wonderful. But really, we need to know how the nuances of these little plans that you just don't get on an eligibility and benefit sheet. So pre-auth is going to tell you those things. And so once I've done them once, I don't do it again when it's expired. That's up to the patient. So I just keep them in my system and send them with my claim, even though it's expired.
That's
just
awesome.
They're FYI.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So more bullet points on what you mentioned. Since you've implemented pre-authorization, you reported that less than 2% of accounts receivables are 90 days or over. Very few statements sent to patients, which is awesome. Many practices send hundreds and hundreds of statements to patients at the end of each month. One cool one you mentioned here is that dreadful and unreliable calls to insurance carriers are nearly eliminated, reducing the cost and frustration of insurance administration.
Yes.
Yeah.
I rarely call anymore. I rarely call. Like I said, just what you said, I rarely call anymore. If I have to call, I'm extremely perturbed by it.
Yeah. When I go into client offices, and I don't visit client offices rarely. I typically only visit the ones here locally in Utah because I have the time to do it. The one thing I notice is that there's always somebody on the phone with insurance. And I went into one of my Scott McGavin's office in Taylorsville, and his wife was up front, and she was on hold. She was on hold. She's like, just come back here and sit, and Dr. McGavin will be with you in a minute. And then she started she put the phone down, and she's like, are you freaking kidding me? It's not the word she used. And I was like, what happened? She's like, I was on hold for them for an hour and 20 minutes, and then they hung up on me.
Yeah, but what for? God bless her. What was she doing? What? And then an hour and a half. Now think, if you're paying an employee an hour and a half, you got their regular rate plus their employee taxes, plus everything else that you're doing. And then they can't serve someone else because they're on the phone for an hour and a half. And that's just them trying to serve the office and serve the patient. Their intent is good. It's just that if we turn the tide a little bit and arm ourselves, just like in our article says, then we don't have to go and run all this rigmarole. The insurance companies can have their own business, and they can run their business any which way they see fit. And if we're signed and contracted with them, okay, we're going to do it by what's on our dental reference guide. If they don't come back and pay something, okay. I personally love the non-covered service. My favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
And not because I can charge my patient, to the full fee. It's that I can negotiate now with my patient. It leaves everything open for us to determine, and it takes the insurance company out of it. So I can't wait for the day till we're completely out of all insurance. So hopefully we'll be there. Because
we're almost there.
My whole thing is, if there's no providers, it switches the game up. I'm not saying insurance companies would never be there, but it releases, patients are getting aggravated with the environment now offered by insurance companies. They expect to be nickeled and dimed. They no longer expect that free cleaning. They always expect the hinge, and they're frustrated with insurance companies. And many of them are dropping and they're just wanting to pay for things out of pocket or do an in-house plan or pick up a different type of avenue of insurance that's not your standard type. So they are frustrated with status quo right now, and it's becoming a theme, not just what I see in my office, but I see in other practices as well.
Yeah.
It's something.
I can't wait for next month, November 2018. There's a group out of Texas that's working on a healthcare plan alternative. That's not, I haven't ever done a ministries plan, but I hear that they're pretty good. But they only cover up to a certain extent. But there's a true healthcare alternative that's going to be available in November 2018. A group in Texas, and hopefully we get them on the podcast to interview them. But I talked to them at length this month, and they deal with insurance carriers. They know these frustrations that, what we experience on the dental side is nothing to what, many of the physicians deal with on the medical side that do multi-specialties or multi-specialty groups where you're dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of CPT codes. And there's a wave of change coming through by the private sector here, coming very shortly with many different groups just frustrated with insurance in general. And it's the same frustrations that we experience on our side. Moving along here on your bullet points, you said that 98% of treatment plans are accepted. Okay, so for those of you that are aware of the national statistics on what percentage of patients accept a treatment plan when it's given to them. And this is a study that was recently done, I think, in the last 2 years. This organization came out with a rate of 27%. 27% of treatment plans are accepted. Melissa's is 98%, and in large part due to the fact that you do these pre-authorizations and a lot of things that you do with the dental reference guides. Can you speak to that? Because that is a very impressive amount. If I, to be honest, in my career in working with a few thousand dental practices, I maybe know less than 20 offices that have a case acceptance rate above 80%, and you're one of them. Can you speak to how that is done with the tie-in of pre-authorizations?
Very simple. You tell the patient, you answer that golden question, which is always, how much is it going to cost? Is my insurance company going to pay for it? They look at you with these eyes like, gosh, I hope it's going to happen. Well, we don't want to take it on ourselves. Again, so we're going to help them get the answers that they want. And if it comes back denied, we can certainly go to bat for them. But on a pre-D, I suggest sending everything up front. But what we're giving them is a treatment plan then reflects of what their EOB says. And they sign for treatment and they do it. It's really that simple. You're just telling them, good or bad, what their insurance company is going to pay for. And even though I think a lot of times patients accept treatment that's not covered by their insurance company, we sometimes not really have a problem with that at all. So if it's not covered, they know it. And for the patients who question, like, well, can you appeal it? I'm like, oh, we could, but we send everything. And sometimes I show them what we send.
Yeah.
I'm like, I give it to the insurance companies when I call C-Spot run format. So it's as clean a claim as they'll ever get. They've got narratives, they've got intraoral photos, they've got clear films of the apus and the crown of the tooth. They've got everything that they need, full mouth series, perio charting up. I mean, they get loaded with so much information, pain comments from the patient, bleedings, everything is there. So if they're going to deny it, they denied it. And we can, just because they denied it doesn't mean you can't go back and file it again for your patient. It's all right.
Right.
But we tell our patients, look, they denied it, but we'll still file and send anything else that we can on your claim date. They go ahead and do treatment.
Yeah, and they expect to pay for it out of pocket because they have that expectation that it was denied.
Yes, they pay for it right then that same day.
There's no guessing. If it's paid for by insurance somehow, it's a surprise.
Yeah, and kudos.
Yeah.
Another thing on this pre-auth that you find out is like there seems to be more of it out in the West Coast, but there's plans that give I forget what it's called, but they'll reward the patient for going for their cleanings and not having treatment done the first year, and they'll roll over a rollover maximum amount.
Right.
I'm just now starting to see more of that in our area. I don't personally keep up with it, and I would suggest the offices don't. I know it sounds weird, but it could change. You never know if how they're going to distribute that rollover amount. Is it going to be for the individual? Sometimes they give it for the whole family. Sometimes they have stipulations on how they're going to use that rollover amount, or they'll only pay a percentage of it. It's so crazy to me. So I give them estimate on their regular, and if on their regular max, and if the insurance company comes back and pays more, cool. Mr. Smith got a credit. That's okay. He might come in and finish up the rest of his treatment, or he'll have, whatever. So they sell treatment, and I think more than sell, they educate the patient. They give them a better education on their financial costs.
Right. I love that. And then the last bullet point here, you said pre-authorizations prevent the practice. You already mentioned this, but it prevents the practice from being the scapegoat and appropriately lays blame on the insurance carrier for denying benefits. That's
right. I don't know how many times, and the patients typically get these before we do, and they'll call my Debbie, my patient care coordinator, will say, if they're not going to cover it, and we'll go through everything and make sure we sent everything that we possibly could have. And and then they go ahead and, they schedule it. They don't, but like I said, 97% of the time they're going to schedule and start that treatment pretty soon. But the patient understands that it wasn't us. It was the insurance company.
Right.
And over time, our patients have come to expect that we are going to file for their pre-auth their insurance. They love it.
Yeah.
I would. If I had to go to maybe get my eyes done at my doctor's office, and they told me it's going to be $2,000, and my insurance company, was going to pay half, I would want to know, if it's going to be paid or not, right? We're almost like the only profession that doesn't pre-authorize. That's the other thing. It's like the idea is that if you go to your doctor and you've got to have surgery, or you've got to have warts removed, or your tonsils taken out, well, don't you want to know if your health plan is going to cover that?
Yeah, exactly.
All of them pre-authorize. Well, why are we the last bozos on the bus with that?
No, yeah, it's really amazing. So I've only started to pay attention to this since I've met you, and we had you on the podcast for the very first time about a year or so ago, maybe a little bit more. And I started to notice the trend that my son and my wife go in for checkups, and they use our medical benefits in our family. And everything that's done on that side is pre-auth.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's done on the dental side is not pre-auth. We have no idea what we're going to pay until that EOB comes back.
Yeah, total crapshoot.
Right. and so I don't know the reason why in dentistry we haven't really stuck to the same processes as what physicians are doing right now.
I think it is because before, you maybe have $1,000 to squabble over,
right?
Or $1,500. Well, now you have these higher maximum plans offered by a lot of companies, and patients are more educated now about their dental health, mm-hmm. and they want the treatment, which is great. And now you have a lot of families with dual coverage. There's so many people out there with dual coverage now. And now they feel like they can have this treatment done because now they have more assistance with their treatment costs. Mm-hmm. So you have all these interests coming in, but we can't, as providers, feel like we have to be obligated to know all these nuances of these plans. And another perk of doing a pre-auth is if you're third-party contracted, you will know which contract, which third-party payer is going to be on for this network, and it can change during the year. If they switch their client list and you're on Connection and now this company switched to DHA and you're contracted on them, well, now all of a sudden you can see and you can actually call provider relations and say, hey, this fee schedule's not matching up. Oh, well, the client list changed. There's end to end, there's just no reason why you shouldn't do it. It protects you, especially when you're dual coverage, third-party payers. Like in my office, patient calls to say, are you on my plan? We never say yes or no. We tell them, Mr. Smith, I will verify how your plan assists you with your treatment here, how it applies to our office, because we could say we were out of network. We could be in network with a third-party payer, and we didn't know it.
Right. Yeah.
Blue Cross Blue Shield, it goes off with what, Connection and Carrington, mm-hmm. but not Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem. So it could, I think it's wrong to say yes or no. You're definitely not misleading them. What you're telling them is how it's going to be applied in your office, especially when you're third-party contracted. I wanted to touch on something real quick, but the obvious thing about this pre-auth is, well, when you have contract with this insurance company and they send you that ugly, let's just say a dental office did a 4341 SRPs, a quad scales, and they want to downgrade it to the lower 4342 code, which is the 1 to 3 teeth or something like that. Mm-hmm. Well, or let's just say they flat out deny it. What they're saying is you can't charge the patient anymore if the patient wasn't informed that it could be downgraded or non-covered. But when you pre-auth, the insurance company has already told the patient, because they send the pre-auth to the patient too. So the patient is now informed.
Right.
Yep.
That's
so
awesome.
All the patient has to do is sign for the treatment in your office. Mm-hmm. Even if they signed for the treatment and there was an adjustment on there or a non-adjustment, you don't have to honor it. You honor what's in your reference guide. Again, those things are in your reference guide. And if you read them, then you would know that you can bill. But that's the magic of the pre-auth. That's kind of like the undercurrent or the magic that they told the patient already.
Yeah. And it's hard for them to back down on their word. As long as the dental office did the right thing and submitted everything that was necessary to get that claim covered, the treatment that was listed on that pre-authorization, you don't really have any issues with denials. And so, I'm not an expert at this. Melissa is, but I've been talking about this at the various different study clubs and conferences that I've been going to, and I get emails from over 50 offices that have implemented just the pre-authorizations, and more than 50 of them are saying the time that it takes to get the pre-auth back has gone from 3 weeks down to 3 days. Longest has been 5 days, and it's been less than a year. And I know that's the number one concern for many offices out there, is that it just takes too long to do it. But it really is a huge asset to your practice if you implement this and you understand the reference guides. There's so much more that we can talk about, Melissa, but what we'll do is we'll split this up into a series of podcast episodes. Then we'll also record a webinar series with Jordan Comstock, and we'll get that out. If you're on our mailing list, great. If you're not, just contact us through our contact form on saynotoppos.com. But for Melissa's information, we're going to post her contacts if you have questions. Is that okay, Melissa, if we post your email in the show notes?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
So it's raindentalcontrol@protonmail.com. And we'll spell all of that out in the show notes. So click on that if you have a question for Melissa. Melissa is a practice owner. She owns a practice with her husband in Virginia Beach. Very, very successful practice. They do over $2 million a year as a solo practitioner. But she also runs and she won't mention this to you because she's humble and she's gracious and she's all about the education. But she does consult, and she has a consulting company, a coaching company that coaches practices on how to improve insurance processes, particularly exactly how we described it on this podcast and a lot more. So in the next week or two, we're going to continue this topic of insurance administration, how we can fix it and reduce it. We're going to talk about reference guides. Excuse me, not reference guides. We're going to talk about locator codes during the next episode. And then we'll line out the series on what we're going to talk about doing continued podcasts. But if there's anything in particular that you have a question for that you want to ask Melissa or myself or Jordan during these episodes, send us an email. Again, check the show notes for our contact information or email Melissa directly, and we'll include that on the upcoming episodes. Melissa, any closing thoughts for our listeners today?
Well, closing thoughts is be proactive and not reactive. So pull those reference guides. It may sound like a lot of work up front. Just pull them. Get your practice management in order. And sooner or later, you can use those modifier codes, and I can explain those to you. But hopefully you're doing all this already. Pre-authorizations work, and they tell you way more about just treatment costs. These are for your bottom line to protect the dentist as well as assist your patients. And thank you for listening.
Awesome. Melissa, thank you so much. Great having you on today. We may even have you like a permanent co-host with us in the future because you're so smart and knowledgeable. But we appreciate you being on and look forward to having you next week, hopefully.
I like how you build me up. You're awesome.
Thanks, Melissa.
All right. Thanks, listeners. Bye.